Hi, I'm Holly O'Neill, President of Consumer Banking at Bank of America. I'm here at Amber Road Bar and Grill with Will Guidara, author, restaurateur, and hospitality expert. Will is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Unreasonable Hospitality. He's the former co-owner of 11 Madison Park, which under his leadership was named the best restaurant in the world. He is also the host of The Welcome Conference, a co-producer on the Emmy Award-winning series The Bear, and is a recipient of the Wall Street Journal Innovator Award. I'm looking forward to getting his insights about delivering excellent service, building trust, and going above and beyond for clients every day. Thanks for being here, Will.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here in Boston. So, how did you first get into hospitality?
Gosh, I grew up in restaurants. So my dad was a lifelong restaurateur, and I mean, he was my hero growing up. He's my best friend. He's my biggest mentor. Obviously, he's my dad. And I don't honestly think it mattered what he did for a living. That's the thing I would have wanted to do. See, when I was a kid, my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, became a quadriplegic. And so I grew up watching this man work restaurant hours, which are very long hours, take care of her as an amazing husband, and still be a really good dad to me. And so I put him on a pedestal, and appropriately, he deserved it. And so I would go to work with him often. And it just so happened that I fell in love with what he did. I loved restaurants for not only the energy, this controlled chaos that existed in the dining rooms, but the idea that every single day, it felt like he was doing something different. I love that in restaurants, you can literally bear witness to all of life's experiences happening simultaneously within the same four walls. And that was always engaging and addictive for me to be a part of. And it's all I've ever done.
That's very cool. And he does sound like a hero, actually.
He was awesome.
Pretty incredible
he
person.
Still is awesome.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to like to hear you call him his hero here.
Yeah.
So we'll send this his way.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so we both got our start in the same area.
Okay.
You worked for Baskin-Robbins. I scooped ice cream for Blake's Restaurant in Manchester, New Hampshire. That was
Okay.
my first job, wearing a white waitress uniform and a brown apron. I don't think you had a white waitress uniform.
I did not wear a white waitress
Okay.
uniform.
All right. So what did those early days, so this goes all the way back to scooping ice cream, what did it teach you about service, and what is still relevant to your work today?
I mean, each one of my jobs early, whether it was Baskin-Robbins, I was a busboy and a dishwasher with Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I would work in my dad's restaurants as well. I think when I was growing up, a lot of other parents would have dissuaded their kids from going into the restaurant industry. It wasn't a celebrated career path. And I think for the most part, because people didn't like the idea of their children serving other people.
Right.
But from an early age, I was taught, not just by my dad, but the other people I've worked with, that there is nobility in serving other people. That doesn't place you beneath people. It's actually a foundation of strength from which you can grow. And I've learned that early in my career. That's been reinforced for me later in my career. But I just derive so much pleasure from answering the call to serve, from helping people celebrate the big moments, from giving them the grace, if only for a few hours, to forget about the difficult moments. I like being the person that gives other people things to look forward to, whether that was a scoop of ice cream for a kid that was coming into the ice cream shop, or later in life, one of the most exciting meals of their lives.
Right.
I think the connective tissue is that we can create memories, the little ones, the big ones, and everything in between.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I have a couple memories from scooping ice cream. Very sticky hands.
Yes.
That was one.
Yeah.
But two, also the pleasure people had when I gave them good service. And, I remember people giving me outsized tips. At that time, it was $5. But that to me meant they really liked our engagement. And, to your point, restaurants provide comfort, and it is a really good experience. So, Will, your book is titled Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? Because it's a very engaging title. It's very simple, but it says a lot.
Unreasonable hospitality is simply making the choice to be as creative, as relentless, as disciplined, as unreasonable in pursuit of how we make people feel, as most successful people already are in pursuit of the product or service they're selling. There's a quote by Maya Angelou. Many people have heard it. It's my favorite about hospitality. People will forget what you say, they will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you made them feel. I believe that to be so very true. And most people, when they think back on the magical experiences they've had in restaurants and really in any different industry, it's not the little details of the experience that are sticky. It's something that someone said or did that made them feel seen that they hold on to. And given that that's the case, unreasonable hospitality is me making the case that we should be unreasonable in pursuit of that. And I think when we do, it becomes the greatest competitive advantage that any business can have.
Right. And that transcends industries, right?
Yeah.
So you're in the restaurant business, but for me and our team at Bank of America, it's in providing financial solutions to 70 million clients.
Yeah.
So that pursuit transcends industry because you can make people feel good, even in financial services.
100%. I mean, the reality is, if you do something that involves other people, you can make the choice to be in the hospitality industry.
That's right.
And I mean it when I say includes other people. If you're a leader and you are managing people, you can do that through the lens of hospitality or not. If you are serving people in any way, shape, or form, you have an opportunity to do that in a way that is more thoughtful, more connective, more gracious, more kind. And if you do those things, I don't care what your business is, you will be in the hospitality industry.
That's right. I love that. It's a great pursuit.
Yeah.
So on a cocktail napkin one day, you wrote, "We will be number one in the world."
Yeah.
So you were referring to 11 Madison Park, your restaurant that ultimately did become the most celebrated restaurant in the world. So how do you turn a bold vision like that, being the number one restaurant in the world, into real results and reality?
So first, I just think it's important to celebrate our ability to be bold. So I think it's really good to be audacious in your goal setting while at the same time being patient in your pursuit.
Right.
Because nothing of significance happens overnight. And so now it's important to recognize that you set a big goal, A, you need a strategy, and B, you need to rally an entire team around you in pursuit of that goal. For us, when we set out to become the number one restaurant in the world, the strategy was this. The strategy was that if every other restaurant had become number one by being unreasonable in pursuit of the food they were serving, their product, we were going to get there by being unreasonable in pursuit of people. Now, that's the strategy. But then it's getting the entire team behind you as you try to chase it down. And I think in cases like that, I believe every great leader, when they walk into work on a daily basis, they have two jobs. One, to be very clear with their team about where they're going. I think people crave leadership and they want conviction in that leadership. For me, that was saying to the team over and over and over again, we are going to be number one, unreasonable hospitality. But two, to invite as many people as possible to sit with you so you can figure out together how you're going to get there. Because A, people crave a sense of ownership. They have ideas. They want those ideas to be heard. The more that people feel like they're genuinely contributing to the work they're doing, the more inclined they are to work as hard as they need to in order for that thing to succeed. Not to mention the fact that the collective creativity of many will always vastly exceed that of one or two.
Okay, so there's a famous $2 hot dog story. about you serving a $2 hot dog
Yes.
at 11 Madison Park.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? I'm very curious. And what did you learn from that?
So we had been trying to identify what unreasonable hospitality meant for a couple of years. And we'd been doing some seemingly obvious things. We'd looked at the experience we were serving, and we were trying to figure out how to make as many elements of it more hospitable. How we welcomed people through the front door, how we took their orders, how we delivered their food. Then we took it a step further, recognizing that if we could enhance the overlooked parts of the experience, that would actually set us apart. And so we tried to be very creative and very intentional on how we dropped the check on what the experience of going to the bathroom was like, recognizing that the smallest enhancements to the most overlooked touch points can have the greatest impact on the experience as a whole. Because when you do that, it's you saying clearly to your customers, we're willing to care about things that no one else has even paused for long enough to consider. But even with all of these changes, I wasn't sure we'd figured out what it meant to be unreasonable. And then one day I was in the dining room on a busier than normal lunch service, and I was helping out the team. And I was doing what I always tried to do when I was helping out the team. I was just clearing dirty plates. I think there's such power in when you make the choice to help people that work for you to do the most menial task. A, because it sends a message you will never ask them to do something you're unwilling or incapable of doing. And B, you're always going to learn something new because you're seeing your work through a different lens. And I was clearing appetizers from a table of 4. They were foodies on vacation to New York City from Europe just to eat at good restaurants. And this was their last meal. They're headed straight to the airport to go back home. And while I was at the table, I overheard them talking, and they were raving about their trip. They'd been to Danielle and Le Bernardin and Jean-Georges, and trust in how fancy and French the names are.
All the names.
Those are the good ones. And now 11 Madison Park, the trip of a lifetime. But then one woman at the table jumped in and said, yeah, but we never got to eat a New York City hot dog. And it was one of those light bulb moments. I ran outside of to the hot dog cart on the corner, bought a hot dog, ran back inside. Then came the hard part, convincing my fancy chef to serve it. But I convinced him to trust me. And he cut the hot dog up into 4 perfect pieces, put 1 on each plate, added a little swish of ketchup, 1 of mustard, a little scoop of sauerkraut, 1 of relish. I think he finished it off with like a micro herb to make it look fancy.
Of course, a micro herb.
Exactly. And then before their final savory course, which at the time was our honey lavender glazed Muscovy duck, I dropped off what we in New York call a dirty water dog at the table.
A dirty water dog. I love it.
And they freaked out. I mean, at that point in my career, I'd been working in some of the best restaurants in America for 15 years. I'd served tens of millions of dollars of caviar and lobster. Yet I can confidently say that I'd never seen anyone react the way they did. You know, athletes are always going to the tapes when they've had a bad game. They do that to identify the mistakes they made to try to make sure they don't repeat those mistakes. What they don't do often enough, what I don't believe any of us do often enough, is go to the tapes when we've had a good game to see what we did well, just to make sure we keep on doing those things. That's how you put intention to intuition. So I went to the tapes on the hot dog, and it was 3 things. The first, it just required being present, which feels so obvious, and yet it is so hard. I define being present as just caring so much about that one person in front of me that I stopped caring about everything else I need to do. And these days, with cell phones as perpetual distractions, with our ever-growing pursuit of efficiency, it's getting really hard for people, even the best of us, to do it well. The second, this acknowledgement. Yeah, if you want to succeed at whatever you do, you better take what you do seriously. And also, we all need to stop taking ourselves so seriously. I mean it, I see it all the time, way too often. We let these self-imposed standards interrupt our ability to bring other people joy. I think we've become so focused on perfecting brands that we are not focused enough on pursuing people. A hot dog in a 4-star restaurant could not be more off-brand. But when you look at how it made them feel, Who actually cares? And then third, listen, hospitality is truly making other people feel seen. And if that's the case, the best way to do it is not to treat them like a commodity.
Right.
One size fits all will only ever take you so far. The best way is to treat them like unique individuals. I really do believe I could have given that same table a very expensive bottle of champagne for free. It would not have had the same impact as the hot dog. In Unreasonable Hospitality, one size fits one.
Right.
And so the hot dog kind of became our new true north. And in those three things, we had a roadmap. And it was about saying that over and over and over again to the team, and then giving them permission to make it their own.
Right. It's very, very interesting. Be serious, but not so serious.
Yeah.
Be present and make people seen.
One size
So
fits
it's,
one.
It's very simple,
Yeah.
and I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the $2 hot dog at scale. So
Okay.
hospitality at scale. So today we serve 69 million clients, 48 million households, 75 million phone calls, 110 million visits into our financial centers, 50 billion interactions during the course of the year with our clients. So that's a lot of that's a lot of hot dogs.
It's a lot of hot dogs.
It's a lot of hot dogs. So how do you think about hospitality at scale like that?
Yeah. Well, so, okay, a couple things. First of all, even for companies that are operating at that scale, that is not an excuse to never do things
Right.
that are unscalable. Like, if we only do the things that we can scale, we will not be innovative. We need to, especially when it comes to hospitality, do unscalable things for other people all the time. And yet, for it to actually make a real dent in the culture of a company, you do need to figure out how to systemize this stuff.
Right.
And it's one of the great paradigm shifts in this book is that you can systemize graciousness. And we did it through a few different exercises. One was through something I call pattern recognition of recurring moments. Because if you look closely at your business, there are things that they're not touch points in the experience. They're not things that happen always for everyone, but there are things that happen sometimes for some people, as often as once a day, as rarely as once every couple weeks. Every business has these. If you can identify them in advance, decide how you want to respond every time that thing happens, invest in whatever assets are required for that reaction, you can create magic all the time. I'll give examples not from my restaurant that I've seen out in the world because I think they might be easier for people to relate to. But Chewy, the
I love
online,
Chewy.
it's an amazing company, amazing culture. And so it's no surprise that they do this. But online pet supply company, if you have a dog, you go on there, you auto-subscribe every single month. At the beginning of the month, dog food is arriving at your house. I am pretty OCD. You need to be to get 3 Michelin stars in the restaurant
Probably
industry.
a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my entire life, I've never been a dog person. And then I got married and learned, actually, I am a dog person. And so a couple years ago, or 4 years ago, I finally got my first dog. She's a 90-pound Swiss Mountain Dog. Her name is Butter.
Butter.
I love this dog so much, but it almost breaks my heart because I know I will lose her far earlier than I'm ready to.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. When that unfortunate day does come, I guarantee you the first thing I will think to do is not to go online and cancel my dog food subscription, which means a couple weeks later, another bag of dog food is going to come. It's going to rip the scab open, and I'm going to have to reach out to Chewy to cancel. This is a recurring moment for them. So they systemized it. Every time that happens, they do the following. They obviously apologize for your loss. They cancel your subscription. They can't take that last bag of food back for health code reasons, but they credit it back to your account. And then 2 days later, you get a bouquet of flowers delivered to your house saying, "We are so sorry for your loss." What does that cost them? $10? Here's the thing about dog people, though. They're going to get another dog. And once they've done that for you, you will never buy dog food from anyone else ever again.
So let's talk about earning and maintaining trust.
Yeah.
So establishing trust is the first and most important step to delivering great customer service. And we talk about this a lot, especially right now. So what's your advice for earning and maintaining trust above and beyond some of the things that we've already talked about?
Hospitality is beautiful. And in fact, I think it's where the kind of memories that we're all trying to deliver are made. And yet, it needs to be set upon a foundation of excellence. Because I think it doesn't matter how gracious and kind and warm you are, if you're not fulfilling the prerequisite of just providing consistency in the excellence of the product you're delivering, I don't think hospitality will ever ring true. And so how do you earn trust? Delivering on the promise. Doing the thing you said you're going to do within the right frame of time, right?
Right.
And I think once you've done that, then really engaging with the people you're serving, giving enough of yourself such that they are invited to do the same in return. One of the areas where I think we could all stand to really do a lot better in earning trust is in the moments where we fail,
Right.
where we make a mistake.
Right.
I think it's incredible to me how many big companies, the people on their front line in customer service positions, have an inability to say the two words, "I'm sorry." I really think we need like a revolution where people like reconnect with those words, because sometimes that's all people need to hear. Saying "I'm sorry" says to the person you're serving, "I care about how you're feeling. I'm sorry that you're feeling this way. And I'm sorry that we let you down," which is an expression of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability begets vulnerability. When two people are willing to be vulnerable, that's when trust and connection happens at the kind of level, the deeper level that we're trying to forge relationships out of.
That's right. Great suggestions and very simple suggestions. Very simple. So you talked earlier about the distractions of digital and social media, and people are going, 1,000 miles an hour. And, we are in a world of digital transformation, and that's shaping who we are, how we operate. So how can you keep the emphasis in light of that broader environment on people and experiences, which is a principle and core to our strategy as it sounds like it's core to yours as well. So how do you keep that focus?
I mean, I think this transformation we're going through, the digital transformation, exaggerated right now through AI and everything that's happening there, it's presenting to the people who are looking at the world through the right lens two beautiful opportunities. One, there are less human interactions now than ever before. And we crave them. As human beings, we need those moments, and we want them to be as humanly possible. So if, as an organization, you can show up in that way, it's just the kind of thing that means a lot to the people we're serving, and it does not go unnoticed. So I think that's a beautiful opportunity. The second opportunity is to seize on all these tools that exist out there and use them for good. Right? A lot of people think that everything that is being built right now with AI is antithetical to hospitality. I actually think it can superpower our ability to be hospitable at scale, so long as it's used as a tool to make our humans more human, as opposed to being used as a tool to just replace human beings entirely. But I think recognizing that these opportunities exist is step one. I also just think organizationally, we undervalue just how powerful it can be to talk about things with passion. I really celebrate the power of a daily huddle with a team, and I cannot overstate how if something is important to a leader and they're willing to talk about it over and over and over again with every ounce of their passion, passion is contagious. And sometimes words can actually move the needle in shifting the way an entire organization of people think. If we talk about why being as human as possible matters, if we talk about how we can make genuinely powerful impacts on other people's lives when we do those things. And if we talk about those things, well, with all of the passion they deserve to be spoken of, I think it's nothing short of extraordinary what we can do.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. And our teams in the field and all of our 3,600 financial centers do a morning huddle.
Yeah.
So I suspect that we'll be talking about some of this at those huddles.
Well, yeah. And
it's a great way to start the day for our teams.
And by the way, for anyone who's listening to this, who leads one of those huddles, you're already doing half of the work. And now it's about just extracting as much value as you can out of them. Anyone who's doing one of those and is spending the entire time talking about operational concerns or ideas that could be conveyed via an email, like that meeting is the greatest opportunity you have to actually lead the people around you.
That's right.
And that does not happen when you only focus on the what. It happens when you focus on the how and the why, when you recognize that people want to be inspired. And if you're someone who's willing to step up and share things that have inspired you out in the world, invite them to do the same in return, I think those minutes spent together as a team on a daily basis are more important than any minute that any organization spends serving a paying customer. Because when you do them well, it's when the people you work with cease being a collection of individuals and they come together as a trusting team.
That's great. Really unbelievable words of wisdom, Will, but we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so building strong customer connections. So for somebody watching who wants to build stronger connections with our customers, what is the first practical, very simple step they could take?
This is like a customer that you're engaging with over and over again, like a relationship?
One of our 70 million clients who walks into a financial center who may have a question or the need to change an account, what would be one practical step you could share for them to really connect with that customer?
Okay, like the baseline, the simple stuff is recognizing that we need to slow down to speed up. Right? It's remarkable to me. Years and years ago, someone gave me a piece of advice on tipping, that the difference between a good tip and a great tip is not that much. Right? If you look at the end of most restaurant meals, the difference between 20% and 28% is not that many dollars, and yet the impact is pretty significant. The same is true in how much time we spend with someone when we're serving them. It's remarkable how spending just a couple more minutes with someone can make all the difference. When I talk about being present, that's what I mean. So often, if you're a teller at a bank, you look at all the people waiting online, and suddenly you're distracted by everyone that you need to serve, and you don't have the ability to actually invest in the person you are serving. Recognizing that level of eye contact, that level of patience, actually answering all the questions someone has, being inclined to just care a little bit more, try a little bit harder, right? This stuff sounds simple, and yet most organizations aren't doing it either because they haven't been inspired to do it, or worse yet, they haven't been given permission to do it. Where so many organizations are so focused on throughput that they're not celebrating the things that are harder to measure. Which is just connection. So slowing down to speed up, a bit more patience, a bit more eye contact, a bit more understanding. I think that it's pretty wild how far that can go. The second thing is what I was alluding to before. I have spent now time with leading companies across pretty much every industry, and I found that very few actually know what every touch point in the experience they're serving is, because they've never paused for long enough to genuinely understand the experience as a whole. So many companies have lost the trust of their customers before they've even started talking to them, because they're not interrogating the experience as carefully as they should. Anyone who's ever called a customer service hotline and had to give the exact same set of information 3 times before they are talking to the person that's actually there to help them, understands how quickly trust can be lost when you're not looking at the experience closely enough. And then from the very top, one of the best ways to engage trust with your customers is to start by trusting the people on your team.
When I first took my job in the consumer business, I ran our service centers. And one of the things I did when I first got into the job was I traveled to a variety of locations and I sat side by side with people who were taking phone calls and I just listened in. I just wanted to experience what they were going through and how the calls went. And of course, efficiency may be one of the things that we look at with, 75 million calls. You have to look at efficiency. But the client service rep took a call, and the call probably took 25 minutes long, which is very long.
It's a very long call.
And I could see the customer service rep sweating as
because
we were
you
going
were right
through,
next to
because
them.
I was sitting right next to her. But the client at the other end of the call was having a difficult time articulating what she needed. She was speaking very slowly, but the customer service rep just took her time. And I kept looking at her and I said, take your time, just go at the pace of the client. And at the end of the call, the client said, I want to thank you so much. You were so patient. And I want you to know I had a stroke 2 months ago and I've had a very hard time speaking, but you were so patient in that call and I'm so appreciative. And I think about that all the time because you don't know what's happening on the other end of the phone call. And I hope that we have a customer for life in that after that interaction. But I remember thinking in my head, the stress that the client service rep was probably experiencing with me sitting right there and then taking such a long time to help the client. But at the end of the day, we use that as a great example.
I think it's beautiful, right? And it's about creating a culture where, you're not encouraging people to spend 20 minutes on every single call.
Right.
You're saying, hey, I trust you.
And if you need to.
And I would imagine if you were to sit next to that same person today and she was on another very, very long call, she wouldn't be stressed about being on a long call because she knows that you support her doing what's right for the person in that moment. I think no matter what we do in a restaurant, we serve 100, 200 people a night. You need to remember that for each one of them, that's a very unique experience. They're not just a bunch of calls. For me, they're not just a bunch of covers. You never know the amount of stress or anxiety or what that person's going through when they call. And I think it's about showing up for each one of them in a way that is uniquely their own kind of experience.
Right, that's right. Okay, so we're going to close out with one more question. So working with customers and clients directly can be very fulfilling, but it can also be very demanding.
Yes.
And, one of the lessons I've shared with my 3 kids is that at some point in your career, you have to have a customer experience driven job because no matter what you end up doing, having that experience is incredibly important. So how do you recognize and celebrate your team's hard work in the way of delivering customer experience?
So I think like anything, nothing happens as consistently as it should in the absence of intention and building systems to ensure that it's happening in the way that you want it to. And so, like you look at any great business, I'll use mine as an example, in a kitchen. There are prep lists and there's schedules. There's all these things to make sure that every ingredient is cooked in the right way, on time, delivered, whatever. And yet, when it comes to praise and affirmation, which is so unbelievably important, if you set very high expectations and people meet or exceed those expectations, you better be there to praise them. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because people crave affirmation. Praise is addictive. The more you get, the more you want. It's one of the most beautiful and virtuous ways to elevate the excellence and the hospitality of a product. And yet people leave it to chance. They're like, I just want to tell people they're doing a good job. Yes, obviously, if you see someone doing a good job, tell them in that moment. And yet I believe we can build systems around it.
Right.
And so we had so many systems we built. At the end of every single night, I'll share my examples because I think other people can be inspired on how to bring them into their industry. There's a closing manager at a restaurant, and they fill out a manager log so the people that get in the next day know what happened the night before. The last box they had to fill out, we called it caught crushing it. And they just had to list a bunch of people who did an amazing job that night. In the daily huddle that began service the following day, everything that was in that box was going to be read aloud. So that meant every single day at every daily huddle, people were being praised for their work the day before. We had a box in the back in the office called I Appreciate You. It was like one of those, locked boxes with a bunch of
Suggestion
cards.
box.
Exactly. And anyone in the team could just write a little note to anyone else in the team that did something well. And once a month, we'd spend an entire daily huddle just reading out messages from people's colleagues about how they went above and beyond. We had employee of the month, we had employee of the quarter, all this different stuff. But the point being, I believe this is true about any relationship in life and in work. If you're making the choice to pursue someone, you need to create as many systems as possible to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable and pursuing them in the way you want to. And so when it comes to acknowledgement, appreciation, affirmation, and upholding the ideals we're setting for ourselves, there should be a lot of those systems in place.
That's great. I love the caught crushing it.
Yeah.
That might find its way into our system.
I think it's great.
That's pretty cool.
Well, because it's the reality in any team of high performers, we can make the mistake of spending more time trying to catch people doing something wrong than catching them doing something right.
Love it. Will, it has been such a pleasure having you here. So much amazing content and ideas and inspiration and passion. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.